Hey friend, have you ever asked yourself the question, how can I freshen up this dull painting? Well, I certainly have. I think we've all been there where we've overblended, we've overdeveloped, we've gotten to that place in the painting where things have just fallen to mud. Well, in this video, we're gonna do a painting and explore how to bring that fresh color to our work. You excited to get right into it? Me too. Let's paint. Okay, here's the plan. We've got some trees in a meadow by a pond at sunrise, and it has the potential of falling very dull. There's a lot of rich medium and dark tones in this reference that I've selected intentionally for that reason, so that we bring the panache, we bring the color to this. But what I'm gonna do first is sort of paint myself into a corner. We're gonna get to that place where we've got some problems to solve. I'll build up the basic shapes, and then we'll reconnect as we kind of have to figure out how to bring some fresh color into this scene, okay? So I'm gonna get started. Okay, we've got ourselves a rather uninspiring painting at this stage right now, and that's the point. So we'll pick up on our adventure of bringing fresh color. Before we do that, I wanted to give you a couple of points of encouragement. First off, if you haven't yet, please subscribe to this channel. We want to continue to encourage you in your creative development, and there's lots more great video content coming in the days ahead. Additionally, you might be wondering how I work through the stages of a painting. I'm not going to really explain that in this video, but I'm going to provide a link in the description below to another video where you can download the resource guide that'll give you all the stages in the development of a painting with trees. Okay, so that's that. Now let's check this out. We've got a pretty neutral, pretty dull painting in front of us. The shapes are there, some sense of the darks to light values are there, but now it's time to really add some panache, add some excitement. So what I'm gonna do is go into the darks, the middles, and the lights, and as I do, add some excitement, add some chroma. Are you ready? I certainly am. Okay, so I'm thinking, just to mix things up, because everything's very kind of warm, neutral, kind of earthy, greenish, olive, that I'm gonna add a dark accent that's cool. So this is a blue, and it's got some nice navy blue in there, a bit of indigo. Just add that into my shadow area before I go in and add warmth into the lights. Part of freshening up a painting is bringing some color variety into it, but a lot of it is about adding chroma, adding impact visually. Okay, so let's get in and just push in with some deep dark green. I know it sounds crazy. Wow, that's a different color than I thought it was. It's a little almost turquoisey blue. I know it sounds crazy, but if you want to make those lights sparkle in your painting, you really want to make sure our darks are anchored. So I thought, even though this color surprised me, it was a lot bluer than I had anticipated, I think it's still interesting, and I'm adding in some of that chroma. Let me just test this out here. These are a couple of hard pastels. This is a deep navy again. That's quite similar to what we already used. I'm just basically looking for one more really dark accent. And since I haven't found it in the green family, I'm gonna go right back over to my dark purples. And we'll push in a real nice dark. There we go. more right here into the water. So beautiful, soft pastel violet from the Terry Ludwig collection. Pushing into some of those nice dark areas with a bit more value, and almost miraculously when you do this, when you add that dark accent, it will usually make, you know, this light look fresher. So without even touching the color up there, we've made it look fresher by adding a dark accent. So that's a good initial check, is how are my dark accents? Have I gone dark enough in those points to really let the light sing? Okay. Now I want to go into the midtones and add some chroma to the green. So this green has a lot more saturation. Whether you want to say chroma or saturation, there's more richness in that midtone. And whenever I use greens, I try to be careful with how much I use really bright greens or really strong chromatic greens. In this case, with this meadow at sunrise, it's a rich color, not too light, but it really helps to have a little more depth in that color. Just one slight shade lighter. And as you can see, I'm going to lay these down as swatches of color. I think that's important. I'm not going to push my fingers all over these colors and muddy them up. I've already done, we had some dull kind of blended atmosphere underneath. That can be helpful, honestly, to create that nice soft focus atmosphere. But now we want to leave these colors as we lay them on. We want to let them sparkle and reveal their chroma. If it gets overbearing, we'll knock it back at that point. Certainly in the water, sometimes I'm gonna blend them a little just to get that glassy, diffuse look of the water. I like to see the water kind of shimmering as a glassy surface. So I'll run my finger over it just to get that feeling. Okay, now we're starting to have some green in here. But this sky color is still just a bit mauvey, taupey. It doesn't have much light source in it. So let's see what we can do there. I think we'll jump in just to get a touch more of a reddish cast into the clouds. Pinkish. So I'm just pushing into these clouds through here and seeing whether I can utilize a more chromatic version of color here to cut through the sky. I actually want to use both this color I'm holding and the neutral. The same neutral I had before. I just want to kind of fuse them together. A little bit darker. Is that darker? Okay, I want to warm this color up. Even though this is a red, it's kind of on the pink side, cool side. I found a warmer mid-tone. Let's run that along the edge of this gray, kind of hazy cloud layer at sunrise, and just begin to indicate that this light is warm. It's about to pop up over the horizon. You'll notice again, as I lay these strokes down, little flicks of color. Sometimes I'll drag it across the surface to get a more broad atmospheric haze of color. I always say with freshening up, don't give those muddy colors such a bad name. We need them. This is a color that I would probably describe as being dull or muddy, and yet it's so useful. Actually, the dulling down of pigment is very important. If we have all saturated color, it's just too much. So we push and pull, find that wonderful balance between contrasting chromatic colors and more neutralized. Essentially, this integrates that purple back into the painting. Okay, let's get in. We need some yellow family in this painting. We need some ochre, some kind of sky color. So that's our next order of business. I'm looking around here. Let's see what we can do with this. A bit of a golden color. That should work. Let's first off come down into the water of the pond and suggest that there is some golden light about to break forth. Okay, right in there. And come up into this sky, right by the red that we used. And when you apply that fresh color, that more exciting, we want to be decisive. We want to lay it in. Don't fuss about, an example of fussing about would be I lay it in and then I touch it and I touch it. I lay it in, I touch it and I touch it. Don't do that. Just put that color down and leave it. That's important. That keeps it clean. That keeps the pigment exciting. Touching it, diffusing it, that all dulls the chroma. We only want to do that if that's our goal. Carry this little golden light through and pull it out over on this side below those clouds. Now we're just starting to get the feeling of that light punching through the sky. Let's pull it through right here as well. Get some striation. How about over here? Now I'm squinting my eyes so I can understand the shape arrangement in here. Let's come in and just warm that up. We certainly have not reached the lightest light in the spectrum that we'll put in this painting. Okay, we got a nice relationship between those warms. Now this is a tint of yellow, lots of white added to the color, so that it's actually not terribly chromatic. It's just a lot brighter in terms of its value. And so that will add some crispness to the painting, just bringing the value spectrum up to a higher key on the value scale. So as you see, I'm laying it in, I'm leaving it alone initially so that I can see whether that pigment working. Let's just step back towards the darker value one step. So this is an ochre. It's a little more neutral and slightly darker. You can just transition into this space. Now these are soft pastels, and I'm laying them down on sanded board. Try to build up a nice rich chroma. Go into some of that warmer golden ochre and add this more neutral. So again, the muddy color wins. Finds belonging, finds its place in the painting. We don't want to give muddy colors a bad rap entirely. We like them. They're important to this painting. I'm going to try just another variation. This is be a little peachier, I think. Yeah. So this has more of that colorful quality, almost a little bit of orange into that yellow. I think we need to cut in with the lightest light of where the sun is really trying to break through here. Right into this area. Now this is a nice, extra soft pastel. It's a creamy yellow schminke. And we can come up in here one more time and just add a little bit of, you can see another aspect of fresh color with these lights. This is really important. Clean them. Clean them before you use them. You pick them up. I've seen your palette. I've seen it. It's filthy. You know, you got to clean that color. If you pick that thing up and there's dirt all over it and you put it on your painting, it's going to be dirty. Nothing magical happens between the dirty pastel in your palette hitting the painting to clean it. So you're going to have to clean that. Make sure that you're putting nice, crisp, clean pigment into your painting. That's going to help freshen up the palette as well. So we can see just applying this creamy yellow is really bringing a freshness to the light in the sky. Believe it or not, I probably could blend a little bit. I think there's too much texture. All right, sometimes I use these little soft-haired brushes to do a bit of softening as we come in, say, into this tree. We just want to let that diffuse a little bit, because using your finger is excellent when you want the oils of your hand to push that pigment in, but we do have to be careful how much of the oils of our hand we want on the surface of the painting. So in this case, I just scrub this in a bit, and I scrub that color into the paper and knock back some of the texture, let some of that tone back through. It does release a fair amount of pigment. See, I'm using this brush, I'm moving through those clouds and just trying to pull at them so that that darker cloud formation moves through the sky. Okay, now we're going to add a little bit more of a chromatic accent. Very important, these small areas where we can add a little even more chroma and get a nice pop. So in this peachy salmon color that we see in the sky, there's probably a few places we can add a little punch there. And you know, there's more color here, and we're just gonna use this sparingly, but this will create a wonderful sense of freshness. And it's amazing with these chromatic accents that a little goes a long way. Look at that. That little bit, what did I do? 3-4 marks of that color, and it just livens up the sky. Amazing. So very effective to use these chromatic accents, but do not overuse them, because then it'll just kind of overwhelm the scene. Maybe a little bit just right around the edges of this tree to kind of say that the light is popping through those little bits of foliage and it's creating a wonderful glow down at the edge here, perhaps here and there. I'm going to step one value darker and do that just a bit more in and around this tree where it shouldn't be quite as bright anymore. So I'll come right in here. Now you notice if you go darker in value, it really helps inside this dark mass of the tree. Makes more sense. Even perhaps down here, but very hazy and soft down here. Just lightly drag with this beautiful pink over the surface. All these little water elements become hazy, soft reflections. It's just a little more in this sky. I just love this additional pink, but without overdoing it. Maybe just a touch right in here. So this is the focal point of the painting. So I don't want to create the same kind of power and activity down here. That would not help the painting. I'm looking at the sky, asking myself whether I need one more pop. So I'm just grabbing another tint of yellow. After we did some of that brush work, I will usually find myself adding a little more flicker back in, freshening that whole area up with a crisp sense of the light. Looks great. I actually want some deeper greenish ochre, kind of a greenish yellow ochre over on this side, further away from the light source. Very clean. Oh yeah, that looks great. So we'll just use a little more of that. Pulling that up again. I'm going to add this green ochre into the water as well. Just make a little mark and evaluate. So you can see how a little bit of blending will give you that hazy look, that hazy, smoky quality in the sky or in the water. So it's actually wonderful in the water to get that hazy feeling of the grass reflecting. And we keep this fresh and crisp. So the contrast between the soft edge and the crispness is beneficial. All right, how about a little bit of a green chromatic accent? Can we do it? Let's take this right in between, say, the dark and the light of the water, and we'll try it out. How about a little bit in the sky, right inside the tree where, just mix it up. I don't want to overuse this, just a little bit, just a touch on the field. Just almost like the slightest misty morning dew glow on the grass. without lighting this area up. That's enough, just maybe even too much right there. A step darker. Okay, so that's a strong little green accent on the grass. I'm gonna knock back this edge a little. I think it got too low. Okay, so this looks great. And this is okay. Let's just add a little something down there. Sparkles in the water. We're actually going to go into a neutral here, a very neutral greenish. The value is going to help us a lot, just to open up some areas inside and maybe just touch them if we want them to fade a bit. Squint my eyes here, just find the, here's a dangerous quality. I'm looking to refine a reflection in the water, but that is not the focal point. So I'm actually needing to understand, okay, how does this support this? So that means be careful, don't overdo it. So I'm already just kind of measuring for myself when it's too much. And I'm just gonna pull a little more of this lovely creamy light out. I think it helps support that sky nicely, connect the bottom of the painting. Maybe just bring a little bit of light over here. I'm just adding a little more transitional color, not too bright, but has a nice warm green ochre to give some interest and emphasis here and there. Now we're on the home stretch. I'm actually getting close to a point that I really like, but I do want a bit of refinement right in here. Just pull on that a bit so it's not too bright. How about that wonderful misty gray? Now that we have all this warm, a bit more of that cool gray below will communicate that hazy fog in a lovely way. And just pop a couple little foggy sky holes through. Also down here. So pretty how the gray blue turns to a peachy gold as you move up into that sunrise. A little more just for continuity on the far right. And I'm going to pick up that edge with my darker violet. Violet gray is beautiful. Still utilizing those neutralized tints and tones. Just right in here, let's get a little more kind of peach and pink into there. want a bit more saturation. As I've reviewed, just a bit more saturation there. Here is a cooler light. So this is a cooler pinkish light. So I want to go bright without going yellow on this right side. I'm going to add just a couple of tree stems on the right if I can. See if this shows up. It's a little dark colored pencil, doesn't show up. Let's try it. All right. Going back into the tree with sky holes, we have to be careful not to take those really bright colors because it really will overly lighten in the middle of the tree. So I'm using a neutral mauve, but it'll still get the point across that there's light opening up in the middle, and I can always add a little to it with a lighter one. The more towards the perimeter where the light really meets the tree, you get brighter sky holes. But in the middle, not quite as bright. One more shot at that with the darker color. Just kind of wanted to see a little trunk on these tiny trees. I'm using the pastel pencil as a blending tool. Okay, darker violet right in here for the last of these sky holes in the tree, and we'll be all set. That's pretty. Okay, just a touch more of this beautiful red. As you can see, a little bit of this highly chromatic color goes a long way. Well, I like it right here at this stage, and certainly for our exercise of freshening up with color, we've done a great job at doing that. Now, a couple things to think about. When you want to take a dull painting and make it fresh again, you're going to want to use more chromatic and crisp marks of color. Those little flicks of fresh, clean color can do wonders to liven up a whole area of the painting. Also consider those values. We brought a little bit of brighter creamy yellow into that sky, and the whole sky came alive. And so we're looking at from neutral, more chroma, brighter color, and also the use of the fresh, clean mark making can really add incredible beauty. And those chromatic accents, those richly saturated little tiny marks, can do fantastic things to the whole painting with just a few strokes. Okay, so that's our exercise for freshening up with color. It's been a joy. If you like this video, go ahead and like it now. And please leave your comments in the comments section below. How's it going for you with color? What have your observations been? I'd love to find out. Let's keep that conversation going. But until next time, I'm excited for you to get out to your easel, freshen up a painting with some fresh color, and I'll see you in the next video.